Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to pick up from Daf Kuf Beis Amud Beis, and Yatz Hashem, we're going to try to do the entire Perek Beis Kor and start Yesh Neichlin. We're going to try to get all the way till Kuf Tes Amud Beis. So let's jump right into the Perek. Ha'ayim el-chaveiroi, a person who tells his friend, Beis Kor afar ani meichelcha. Now, what is a Beis Kor? The Rabbi explains Beis Kor equals 75,000 square amas. We get to that measurement because the Mishkan was 50 by 100, which is 5,000. And Rabbanan says that we could do 2 for every Mishkan, 2 kor, so 2 saw. Therefore, what's going to happen, a kor is going to be 15 times 5,000 square amas, which equals 75,000 square amas. So a person tells his friend, I'm selling you a Beis Kor. Now, very crucial, he puts in the word afar. And the Rashbam says if he wouldn't say the word afar, the halacha could be different because lav dafka needs to be royal izriya. Huadin, you could use this field to dry out stuff, for example, to dry out your pears, etc. So a person that tells his friend, I'm selling you a Beis Kor afar. And what happened was, hayusham nekaim amukim. There are large cracks in the ground. They call them clefts. They're big, like somewhat of a pit. Amukim asar tvachim. They're 10 tvachim deep. Oislaim. You have raks gevayin yud tvachim. The halacha is einon nimdadin ima. Rather, it's not counted as part of the Beis Kor, and you have to give extra. And the reason is, we're going to see a person, when he sells a field, he can assume there's going to be little pebbles. You know, no field is 100% perfect to grow. There are certain areas in the Sada where we can understand that it's not possible to plant. However, if something's substantial, which is 10 tfachim, and the Rashbam is also Maisif, it has to be also 4 tfachim wide, like that we learned from Rishuyas Arba, that makes it a Malkam Chashav. So when you have such rocks, or such clefts, such big cracks in the ground, they're not counted in the measurement. However, Pachas Mikan, Nimdadin, Ima, if it's less than that shear, then it is counted. Like we said, there's no such thing as a perfect sada. Vim Amalai, another scenario, he says, Ke Beis Kor afar, I'm selling you around the Beis Kor afar without being very specific that he's selling exactly Beis Kor, then Afilo Yisham Nekayim, Amukim Yaisim Asar Tvachim, even if you have this cracks in the ground, this cleft that is quite large, Oislam, you have these rocks, they become part of the shear. Now we're going to jump, and the Gemara is going to jump into Hegdish, because we're going to have similar shiurim regarding these pits. By Hegdish, we're going to see if it's Mali Maim or not. Two of them we're going to try to establish if our Mishnah has the same concept of when these pits are, is it dafka full of water or not. So Tanan Asim, we learned Hamagdish Sadeyu Beshas HaYovel. Someone who's Magdish is Sada. During the times of the Yovel, we're talking about Bisman, Shayovel, Noyeg Zokter Shbam. The halacha is nice and light, lebei zera. It's very crucial, the word zera. We're going to see this in the Gemara later. That it has to be able to plant. Chaimer, they say is a kor. Chaimer sa'irim chamishim shekel kesef. The halacha is if a person, when the time is a Yovel, he doesn't have to give the regular market value. All he has to give is 50 shekels. However, if mamash like our Mishnah, if we have it big, enough substantial, that's 10 tvachim, it's not part of the cheshbon. Rather, we're going to see that you have to give it market value. However, if it's less than that, it is measurement. It is measured. We're on Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, and the Rashbam is Masber. We're learning this really from Sukkim. To tell us, Ein Nimdadin Iman, the Rashbam throws in, we all know by Magdish, a person's Magdish, Ba'ayin Yafa Magdish. A person's always Magdish, Ba'ayin Yafa, the Zukter Rashbam. Ha-Magdish is Asad, the Hikdish is Kulon, a Fila Borvagas. The Kol Shekain over here, Neka'im, Vesalaim, it's going to be Hekdish. Rather, we're going to learn it out, Nimdadim Ima, or not, from Sadeyu. There's extra psukim of Sadeyu. It says Yakdish Sadeyu, Matam Elaymer, to tell us that when you have such large rocks, they're not Nimdan Ima. However, Pachs Mikam, we do know, is Nimdan Ima, Zakter Shmam, Nafkalam Materes Kahanim, from also the Sadeyu, Matam Elaymer, to tell us that if it's under 10 Tvachim, it is counted in the shear. Now, we're understanding right now that it's not Nimdan Ima B'chlal Afi the Cheshbon. Rather, you have to pay full market value. Frak the Gemara, why? V'amai lekachu b'ampei nafshayu. Very nice. I agree it's not part of the original Sada. But why in the world don't we understand that a person is Magdash it just like a Sada? The Hainu, you Magdash two things. One, the regular big Sada, and you have the concept of Chamishim Shekel Kesef. And who are then these Slaim and these pits, you should have a din of Chamishim Shekel Kesef. The Chitim, you're going to tell me, you know why? Because Kivin the Lahav base core, these are Sarah. They only, let's say, equal up to 50 amos. Like Kachi, Vatani, we have a price that says, Sadem Atam Alayim, if you should it says in the Pasuk, Zera, Chaymer Sayer, Bechamishim Shekel Kesef, Ainli Ale Shehegdish Ben Yenzeh. Dafka when you Magdash Shakur. Minayin the rabbis, Lesech, Vechetzi Lesech, and even a Saw, and Tarka, Vechetzi Tarka, we went through the Shiurim. Exactly what they are. How do we know even such small Shiurim are considered Hektish Tamalayim Asada to tell us Mikal Malkan, and even in such a case? So we're back to the question, why is it not Hektish B'fnei Yatzmai? On that, Zaktik Mara Amar of Ukva Bar Chama, what are we talking about? Hacha, Benekaim, Meleim, Mayim Askinon, Delav, Bnei Zrianinu. We're talking about these clefts, these pits are full of water. And since it's full of water, you can't plant. And since it says by the Pasuk, it says, Lebeis Zera. Dahainu, you need to be able to plant. Dikanami, Zaktik Mara, Diktani, Dumya, Dislaim, that what? Rocks can't plant. Who within the pits, these cracks in the ground, can either plant. Shmamino. Why is it when it's under 10 tefachim then we do say it's nechla in the shear? L'chayra, it's not plant. You can't plant it. Why is it b'chlal? Mara answers in our Mishnah. We're understanding it's nimdad and ima. Why? L'chayra, you can't plant it. And that the Gemara answers, Hanu, when you look at these small little cracks and these small little pits, you know how these small little rocks. Hanu nagani da'ara mikri. These are called the cracks of the ground. The Rabbi says this we're talking about on the Ka'im. And v'shidri da'ara mikru. That's we're talking about the slime. It's like a spine. It happens. It's very normal of a sada to have little rocks throughout the field and have little cracks throughout the field. Hacha mai. What is the shaila in our Mishnah? When the Mishnah talks about the yud, when you have a pit, is it dafka? Are we talking about when it's dafka full of water? Dumya the slime, that's why it's not a base core. However, if it would be ra'i lizriya, even though it's 10 tvachim, it would be nimdadin ima or not. And that Gemara says, Amar Papa, no. Afa pisha ein melayim, even when this pit is not full of water, my taima, ein adam raitze shiyite ma'isa b'mekam makam echad, ve'yir olai kishnayim v'shloisha mekaymis. A person doesn't want it to be, when you buy a sada, you want it to be one large flat land. Like that, it's more economical, it makes more sense, more valuable. However, when you have different stages of a sada, it's very not kedai to buy such a sada. Therefore, a person doesn't want that, and he's makbet, and he's not machal. Maskif lo ravina, frakta ravina vadumya the slime tani. It says slime and mas slime the labnei zriyaninu. Hafhani nami de labnei zriyaninu. Just like slime and not bnei zriya, so too these pits, these clefts should not be bnei zriya, so it could be full of water. And that's like the mar kiktani. What are we talking about? Dumi the slime apachis mikan. It's going on the seifa to tell us when it's tafka and echanami, it is nimdadin ima. Zok the Gemara at the two dots, pachis mikan nimdadin ima. Amar Rav Yitzchak, trashim shamru. So we are accepting that you're able to have a certain amount of rocks throughout the sada. However, it has to be base arbas kavin. The most it could be, you can't have that the entire sada is full of small pebbles. Or imagine you have a whole entire sada and every few feet there's rocks. You're right, it's only 9 tfachim and 4 by 4, whatever it is. So how could you have such a sada? So there's a maximum amount of what? Of 4 kavin. Amar Vuk B'chama. Not only that, these 4 kavin have to be v'hu shemivloin v'chameshes kavin. It could only be surrounded. The max it could be swallowed. It needs to be at least 5 kavin. No, even more. V'hu shemivloin b'ruba shel sada. He says it has to go all the way until of a shear of 16 saw. Of course, 30. So the rive is at least 16. What is the halacha? Let's say I agree with you. It has to be going to Rabbi Yochanan. So it has to be beruba. It has to be over 16 saw. What is the halacha? Rubam b'mi'uta or mi'utam beruba ma'hu. Which means to say is, you have these rocks. I got it to over 16 saw. But if you look at the 16 saw and you magnify itself, rive of the 16 saw, let's say we could only have let's say you can only have 4 pounds, whatever the measurement is. Let's say you only have 3 out of 4s in one area, and the rest is concentrated in one area. Do we say since it's rubam b'miuta or not? Or miutam b'rubav? Do we focus, take a magnifying glass, and even go in a little deeper? On that, the Gemara comes out, teku. Amaisa, we blind teku, and we all know it's always going to be hamaitzi mechaveiroi olav haraya, whoever the muhsuk is. Boi Rav Yirmiyah. We're about to go to Kuf Gimel Amud Beis Kasher Mahu. Now, when you have these rocks, the concept of rocks is not just about space. It also stares, it also hurts the charisha, the plowing and everything. So what is the halacha? I got it. Zok Derish Bam, it's muvla b'roiv shel sada, like we explained. However, the problem is, what happens if it's kasher? It's like a circle. So like that, you're going all the way around and you keep staring the charisha. Mao. That it is nimdad nima. What about kashura mao? When you have a row, that there's no way to, not only that, there's no way to plow. Zakter shbam, very crucial. You could be chayrish, but it's a day tchak, but it makes it very hard. The emtim salaima kashura is nimdad ima. It's tadin mao. It looks like a horn, which makes it 2 issues where there's 2 cuts where it's very hard to plant. Or derech hakalson, it's like a zigzag, which is even mamish. There's nowhere in the sada where you have easy room to plow. What is the halach in such a case? Zakti Gemara, lamais, in all these cases we believe teku and amaitzi mechaveiroi olav harai. Tana imayaselo yechidi afilu kolshuhu ein nimdad ima. If you have a rock, however, it's very crucial. Zakter Ashbam. The only time it's nimdad ima is helahecha de muvla b'techa sada, which means to say is the only time this rock you could consider part of the measurement is when it's surrounded in the field. However, if it's on the side, it's part. If you have a choice to make, could you count it from the rock or go a little deeper? We say it's not nimdad ima v'im hayasamuch lemetzar afilu kolshu ein nimdad ima. Even if it's somewhat in the field, but it's near the metzar, even a kolshu. Again, we're going to say it's not counted. Boi Rav Papa, mufsuk over ben tayum mao. In a chanami, we agree when it's next to the meitzar and the sada, we said if it's yichidi, it's not nimdadima. However, what is the halacha? You have a meitzar, and then you only have gimel tfachim, and then you have this rock. Do we consider these gimel tfachim to shter or not? On that, zoik demara teku. Boi Rav Ashi. Afar milamata v'tzumna milamala, or afar lamata v'tzumna milamata mao, which means to say is, what happens when you have a rock? Rav Ashi Zakter Ishban imtin tzalaima, the hefsek afar is a hefsek. I have a shaila, what happens when you have 2 options? Either the rock is superficial, you could easily move the rock and plow, or the other way around, you only have a few tfachim to plow, but there's a rock underneath. And the Scheiner explained that avada everything could work like day because you can move either the rock or you can plow something. Now day kli when there's only a few tvachim to hut the rock, but you could do something al ayad. You could plant it by hand. So in such cases, do we say it shters and not? Do we look as the offer is the ikr, or maybe we look as the rock as the ikr? On that lamaisa the Gemara blibes with the teku, and again hamaitzi mechaveiroi olav haraya. We're at the Mishnah Kuf Gimel Amud Beis Beis Kur Afar. Ani Meichelacha. Now it's very similar to the earlier Mishnah. However, he throws in 2 crucial words: Mida bechevel. Those days they measured it. We saw it earlier that a person should not use a chevel in the summer and in the winter for the different people. Why? Because it comes out that was like their measuring stick. It's like today's laser that we have. So a person, he's being very specific. That I'm selling you a base core. I'm selling you 75,000 square amas. I'm selling you lamet salt, but dafka mida bechevel. The halach is piches kol shehu, if he gives a little less, yenaka. He has to taka, pay him. Haiser kol shehu, you have to deduct what he paid. Haiser kol shehu yachser. If he gives even more, he has to give it back to the Baal HaSada, to the Meicher. V'im ha'maraver, if he says, Hein chaser and yaser, I'm selling you more or less a base core. Then the halach is afilu piches Rabbi l'sah, Haiser Rabbi l'sah. Even if he gives him up to a Rabbi l'sah, the halacha is it's a good sale. Yaiser mikan. However, if he gave him more than a raiva for each saw, then yasa, which is lamet, so it's times 30. Yasa cheshbon. He has to make a cheshbon. Mahu machzerlai. What does he give back? Ma'is. He has to give back money. However, the Gemara throws in The Mishnah of Imratza Machzor Karka. The Hainu, the Gemara is going to discuss it, but the Meicher has the upper hand. The Meicher has an option saying either give me back the Karka or pay me. But the Lekeach, his hands are tied, he has to listen to the Meicher. Why? Because the Zaktimar Velama Machzor Leimais. The whole reason the Mishnah, why do you have to give Bechla money? Leyapa is Koichel Shemeicher. To help the Meicher, like we see, Shem Shir Besada, if a person leaves in the Sada, Bais Tisha Kabin, enough for it's the Chosh of a Sada from the Atzman, like we saw on Yud Aleph. Ubagina, Bais Chetzi Kav. We also saw that Bagina, it's even less. Chadiver Kiva, Bais Roiva, Machzor Lesakarka. So we see from there the concept that a person is doing it for the Meicher, who are then you're helping the Meicher. Not only do you give back the Raiva, you also have to give the extra, and the Gemara is going to discuss that the Lashon doesn't add up so much. It should really say, the Kol HaMeiser is the Chiddush that you have to give back. The Gemara is going to discuss about this. Zok the Gemara, we handled in the Mishnah two cases, either Mida B'Chevel, which means exact, or Hin Chaser and Yaiser, which means Dafka, more or less. So Zaktim Mari Boilu, Bais Kur Stama. What is the Shaila in a scenario? What is the halach in a scenario we just said Stama? You didn't mention which one is Michael or not. Zaktim Mara, Tashma, let's bring a raya from the Reisha in our Mishnah. It says Bais Kur Afani Michaelach, Mida Bechevel, which is the Reisha says Daf when I sell you Mida Bechevel. And then one kuf dalet amad aleph piches kol shu yinaker. And yes, a kol shu yachzu, we make a dia called stama. In a regular case, which is the Shal Gmar, kain chas and yasadami. We have a loch, it's more or less. Frek the Mar right away. I don't understand. Why bringing me a raya from the Reisha? Ima seifa. Vim amalayin chas and yaser. Afilu piches roivelasa. Oy haisir roivelasa. Hegioi hastama. You make a cheshbon. Kimi the bechavel dami. So and you have no raya from the Reisha, the seifa. No, you can't bring a raya from the Mishnah. Very crucial. Taisus de B'maschel Elamaha says, "V'loy kasha racial is seifa the lishna the chaminai lav dafka elanaktil mishum seifa the birsha kuntris," which Rashbam explains. The first Rashbam, one of the Lashinas is right. We don't know is the Reisha right or the Sefer right. The Rashbam says maybe we're telling us the Reisha because we're going to see regarding Tafas Lashon Rishon and Tafas Lashon Achron. So it's not Elamahal like a Mashmina is. We know one of them is right. We just don't know which one. Okay, very good. Shma. Toshma. Let's try to bring a raya to each direction. A person says the Gemara in the Hamin is thinking it's three different scenarios. A person says Beis Kurafa, which is the first case we saw in our mission. We started the parak. Ke Beis Kurafa ani Meichalach, around the Beis Kur, and then it says Hein Chasa and Yasa ani Meichalach. The halach is I feel a piches rivalasa, I haisa rivalasa, Hegiai. Alma, because we're understanding in the Hamin, it's three different scenarios. Stamanami, Kein Chasa and Yasadami. You're very clear that these are the cases. And that is where it says, no, it's not three separate cases. Hasam, Perusha Kamifarish, which is, how do you read it as follows? Ezu Beis Kur. What is a Beis Kur? Shehi Ke Beis Kur. It's like a Beis Kur. Kegoin Damalei, Hein Chaser, Ein Yoiser. Mascular of Ashi. Frekt of Ashi, I don't understand. Imkain ani Meichalach lamali. Why do you need to have three different cases of Meichalach? Elam shmamina, stam nami, kehein, chaser, hein, yasidami, taku shmamina, and the it's a good right. Okay, Zok the Gemara, Mau, Machzer Loi Mois. What does the Mishnah say? Our Mishnah says you give back money. V'chulei. Frek the Gemara's understanding that the Meicher has the upper hand, that either he could demand money, and he cannot, or he can demand karka. However, the lekech has to listen to whatever the meicha says. So, frak the Gemara, liyapas koich shel meicha amrinon, liyapas koich shel lekech lo amrinon. V'atanya, we have a brayse that says piches shivos kabin umechzel lekur, or hisu shivos kabin umechzel lekur, which mamish comes out of Rabbi Lasa. Higiyai yoysi mikan. This is the words kaifin. This is the kasha. We force this a meicha limkar. This a lekech likach. So you see clearly over there, we can force the Meicher. Why are you making it sound in our Mishnah that the Meicher is the one with the upper hand? And that's Zaktik Mara, and that's near this price. So Hassam, the case is talking about. Going to have Yakira Mikara. What happened was, let's just say it was worth $100 an acre. Now Vizalahash, it's worth $80 an acre. Prices went down. And the Meicher is saying, oh, there's extra. I want you to buy it. On that, the Lekech says, you want me to buy it? I'm willing to buy the extra for $80 an acre. Because here's a taina. I knew my budget when I bought your karka. I can't afford to pay that much more. It clearly says that when you buy for the price you paid, and that the Gemara says that's mamish the opposite case. That's the punk fakert. It was $80 an acre, now it's $100 an acre. In such a case, when the guy says you want me to buy it, the guy says I'll buy it, but I'm only willing to pay the $80 price. That's how much money I had in mind to buy. So it comes out the maskana that the Beicher Taka has the upper hand. He could force the lekech to buy it or give him back the karka. However, if he wants him to buy extra karka, he could always go with the cheaper rate the lekech has, such a taina. We're at the 2 dots in the bottom of Kuvdal Amad Aleph Shem Shir Besada Base Tes Gabin. We brought a raya that liyapa is koicha shomeicher. Amr Avhuna, when a person leaves 9 kavin, the halach is the meicher gets it. Now we're going to have a shayla. Do we focus on the whole entire sale? And we say 9 kavin is going to be for every core, or it doesn't make a difference. The point is, 9 kavin is chashiv b'fnei atzmai. So how do we look at it? Do we look at the chashivas b'fnei atzmai, so that measurement's 9 kav, or we look at percentage? When a person buys a city, thousands and thousands of acres, a few kav, even 10, 20, 30 kav, it's nothing compared to the sale and a person's meichel. So let's see inside the Gemara of Huna Teskabin Shamru. Vafilu bebika gdaila doesn't make a difference. As long as it's Teskabin, it can be massive. Percentage-wise, it's nothing. It's a chashuv v'nei hatzmai. Rav Nachman Amar, no. Nice and chivas kavin a mechzel chol kur v'kur. You could add up for every kur. He has a schus of 7.5 kav. Therefore, for example, he sells him 100 kur. He's able to get up to 730 kavin for himself. It's really more. Okay. Shivas kabin umechsa l'chol kur v'kur. Doesn't make a difference. It's meichel. Now on Kuv Dalet Amud Beis v'iko milsi yisera dahave letishas kabin hadri. However, if it comes out there's even a little more for each saw, more than a raiva, that there's no mechila klal, the halacha is avadu, you have to give it back. Eisve Rav Nachman, you Rav Nachman is saying for every core you get 7.5. 1 Kuv Dalet Amud Beis. Shem Shir Besada Beis Tisha Kabin. The Gemara's understanding. Lab de Zaben like Kurai. In our Mishnah, the Rashbam says, it doesn't say in our Mishnah, the Im Shir Bebeis Kur Test Kabin like it says in the Reisha. Rather, it just says it blank. So the Gemara in the Hamin is thinking, it's going on even in a scenario where he sold 2 Karayim. If so, it's a kasha on Rav Nachman. How could you, Rav Nachman, say that in a scenario he sold more than 1 core, you're Michael? My answer is light. There's Zavan like core. It's not true. We're going taka like the Reisha, and it's Dafka we sold a core. Now the Gemara tries to bring a raya made from Begina. It says also beis chetzi kav lav. There's Zavan less sign. The Gemara gives a very similar answer. Loy the Zavan less saw. The Gemara is going to try one more raya. Uchadei kiva beis raya. We said in the Mishnah in a case of raya. My lav the Zavan less saw. And the Gemara says no. Dafka loy the Zavan lo chetzi saw. Boyer of Ashi, now we're going to have a shaila as follows. Sadev and Nasas Gina of Nasas Sada. So let's explain this kasha. Let's add a little more context and what's going on with the Sada and Gina. The Rashbam clears it up and says that if we're handling mitam mechila, the halachas of a Sada and Gina have different shiurim. Sada has much higher shiurim. So if a person was Michael, the shir of a Gina, and then it turns into a Sada, whatever you are Michael, you are Michael. Sorry, in the case of Sada, and then it turned into a Gina, so if a Sada you're Michael, a Gina you want to be Michael, Mashemachal, Machal, you can go back. However, we have a shaila in a scenario. The shaila becomes a scenario where it's above the shear, and the meicher has an option to buy it back or take back the karka. In such a case, and then it changed from a sada into a gina, or gina into a sada. In such a case, do we look at the shas mechira, or do we look at the shas right now? And right now, it's not considered worthless. Let's say right now it's not something that the meicher would get. Do we look at it now, or we look at it b'shas hamechira? Not the Gemara l'maisa blives teku. Tana imhaya. We have a brayse that says imhaya samach l'sadeu afilu kolshu machzol lekarka. So now the Gemara is going to ask a few questions if something's in between is a mafsik or not. Boyer avashi bar mao shetafsik is a pit mafsik, and again intin salim not emes amayim irrigation channel mao shetafsik derech harabim doesn't mean a real derech harabim. However, 16 amis, Mao Shetafsik, and Rechba de Liklik, we learned, which is the biggest Hefsik, Mao Shetafsik, Lamaisa, we come out with the take in all these cases. What? Is those trees, sycamore trees. Veloy es arrival bilvad machzeloi elokol hamaisa. The Mishnah's lashon is you have to give back everything. Zok the Gemara, Klapi Laya. To where does it say in the statement? Because it says in the Mishnah, not only do you have to give back the quarter, you have to give back the meiser. It's not really true. I would have a hamina the other way around. For example, let's say we say a person's meichel up to $10. What's the halach when it's $11? So the lashon would be, you have to give back, not just you have to give back the extra above 10, you have to give back everything. Our Mishnah says exactly the opposite. It says, not only you have to give the $10, you have to give the extra $1. It's the opposite way of talking. So because of that, Tani Rabbi Nachman, we talk about Gersa that says, not just the extra $1 do you have to give back, Ella, as color Rivine Kulon, you have to give back completely everything. Zok the Mishnah, now we're going to go through a sugya, a very geshmaka sugya of Tafos, Lashon, Rishon, Tafos, Lashon, Hachron. We're going to see multiple shitas. It's going to go all the way till the Mishnah, Kavav Manal. Very geshmaka sugya. Bida bechevel ani meichelach. Hein chaser and yaser. So the guy is being oxymoron. It's mamash being a contradictory statement. You start off with your statement, I want it to be a measured 100% perfect, this core, more or less. What do you mean? You're for sure being machish yourself or not. So let's clarify. If you say this, you say a statement in the morning, I want it to be perfect, and then you approach me by Ma'ariv time and you say, I want it to be not so perfect, more or less, so we say you're chayzer. However, that's not a shayla. The problem that comes is when you say something, toich kadei dibur. Whether it's 3 words, Shamalecha Rabbi, Shamalecha Rabbi Mari, we're not going to get through this big machlekes a playskim, but it's toich kadei dibur, a person says, mi de bechevel, then he says, ein chas and yaser. So what do we go like? It's very confusing, your lashon statement. So the Mishnah tells us, which cheetahs bananas, that batel hein chas and yaser. Your last statement where you finished off saying by more or less is mevato what you said in the beginning of mi de bechevel. And who did? Punk verkehrt. In a case where he said more or less hein chas and yaser mi de bechevel, the halach is batel, the mi de bechevel is mevato what? Hein chas and yaser divrei bananas. And we're going to see in the Gemara that the Chacham and Rabbanan argue in this. One kofheim and aleph, top of the Gemara. We're going to go through multiple shitas of Tafos, Lashon, Rishon, Achron. Omer of Abba bar Mama lomer Rav. Rav wants to say Cholkin olav chaver val bananas. However, Rav himself is very crucial, not like Shmuel, we're going to see momentarily. Rav himself does not argue in bananas. We're going to see this Maskonas Gemara, and the Rashbam says it very clearly. He's not saying Zuv v'leisrili, Zuv v'srili. He's saying, I'm letting you know that the people argue in bananas. Frak the Gemara, my kmash malon, shkoyach Rav for letting me know. We know this already, Tanina. We have this in the Sugya Bamatzia, a very famous Sugya. There was a Maaseh b'tzipori. Now, what happened was, if a person rents a Sada for 12 months, for a year, a flat year, in those days, Ibrayar came out of nowhere, right? The Sanhedrin Paskin, so it could come out that if a person says, I'm giving you for $12,000 a year, and then an Ibrayar comes. So what is the halach with the extra month? If I pay for the year, the extra month is nechlal. However, if I made up that I'm paying a monthly fee, then the halacha becomes that the Ibrayar is the 13th month you have to pay. So what is the halacha when a person says $12,000 for the year, but $1,000 a month? You threw that in. So let's see inside. I'm giving you for 12 zuvim for a year. However, he throws in dinner zav l'chaydish. So what do you do now? Came a Ibayar. So now the Seich is trying to get away with it. The Maiska is saying, what do you mean? That's why I told you a month. Uba Maisaf, Nesher Shimon Gamliel, Lifnir Rabbi Yaisi, Amru, and they both said, Yachloiku es chaydish eber. And the reason why they said, they had a shayla of our Mishnah. Do we say Tafos Lashon Rishon, which will make it a year, and therefore the chaydish eber is nechloi Tafos Lashon Achron? So for Ektig Mara, why does Rav need to tell me that we're arguing? We already see this from the sugya of Merchatz. On that, the Gemara answers, Ima hasam havamina hasam hu de ikalameim mahadaka hadabe. The ikalameim perushika mefarish. Aval hacha devadika hadabe ema loy kamash malon. Which means to say is by the case of the Maaseh b'tzipori, we had a shayla. Lav dafka is he coming to say a contradictory statement? Because maybe what he's trying to say is, we have a shayla. Does he mean to say $12,000, 12 dinner a year, a dinner zav l'chaydish? What is he trying to say with the dinner zav l'chaydish? Is the Rashbam is maz over here, the Perusha kamefarish, he's telling himself, wait a second, I know ein eschiris is only mishtalem es ela b'sayif, or I want to be able to cancel. So I throw in that I'm willing to go with the monthly fee that you have to pay me month by month, not by year. So I have a suffix, bichlal, if he's saying Perusha kamefarish. However, over here, Mashenkin Hacha, in the case of our Mishnah, there's no Shiloh, you're being contradictory. Kamashmalon comes right to tell us that they're chaylik, and they have a Shiloh of Tafos Lashon Rishon, Tafos Lashon Achron, and not like Ben Nanas. Amar Rav Yehuda Hamar Shmuel. Zu, very crucial. The word Shmuel comes and says not like Rav. He says Zu different bananas. And the Gemara understands when a person says Zu, he's coming to tell us dafka this and not Shmuel and not the other chalkim. Avachacham imayrim halech achar pacho shel b'shainas. Rather, since it's a suffix, whoever's the muchzuk gets to keep on it. Frak tomorrow. Zu v'loi svirle. Shmuel doesn't hold like bananas. Rav Shmuel damri tarvayu. Rav Shmuel both say, a person says, Kor b'shleishim ani meichalach yachal lachzer by afilu b'sach reino. A person can be chayzer, even the last saw. Kor b'shleishim. Saw b'sela ani meichalach. Rishon kana. You clearly see in such a case where Shmuel both says in the scenario, Rishon kana. In that case, you clearly see that if a person holds, in such a case, Rishon kana, Elamai, Shmuel holds, Tafas Lashon Achron, because that's the case. So Zaktumara, Elazu Visvirle. Taka holds like him. He says Zu Visvirle. Elamai, what was he saying? By saying Zu different bananas, not because he argues to tell us the Rabbanon are chaylik. Frak Demar, is this really true? Mis, really, the Shmuel really hold like bananas to say Tafas Lashon Achron. Shmuel, we're talking about Baba Emsach Chaydish Haskinon. Dafka in the case is talking about the coming middle of the month. However, of a Baba Tchilas Chaydish, if the person comes to the beginning of the month where the masker is the Muksha Kulei masker and Besayfa Chaydish, Kulei Seicher. So Elamai, he's arguing bananas because according to bananas, Tafas Lashon Achron, he clearly would get it no matter what. Because he's saying one a month, one Kofheim and base, Elam. Zu v'loi svirle. That's the Geshmak way of saying it. V'hasan time amai. You know what? Shot. In the scenario by the merchats we say achlaiku is mishum the toughest. He already got the money. So too, hachanami in the case of Rishon Kana is talking about the toughest. Ha-toughest. That's why pshat we don't take it away from him. Nothing to do with bananas. Of Tafos, Lashon, Achron. Okay, let's go weiter. Amar Rav Huna, Amri Bei Rav. And Bei Rav, which is the Rashbam says it's Rav Huna, that it's his Talmud, the Talmud of Rav, Hainu Rav Nuna, which was Talmud of the Rav, and he's saying that the Allah is the name of Rav. The what? Another case we have, a case of Istara. What is Istara? Istara is a Chetzi dinner, which is 192 prutas. So it's basically saying 96. And then he says his star, which is 96. And then he says me'amai. So he says 96, and then he says 100. So what is the Allah Chetzosa steering there? A person's willing to sell an object for 196 or 96, 100. How much am I paying? $100 or $96? What do you do in such a case? Amri Beirav. In Istaria, me'amai, the Allah is me'amai, which is Lashon Achron. Me'amai Istari, so you clearly see that it's Lashon Achron. Frak Demar, Micah Mashmalon. Tafas Lashon Achron, you come to tell us, Bechlal, you get Lashon Achron? Amar Rav Chada Zimno. Da Amar Rav, you have a Hasam. If I was in the case of the Merchutz, I would have said, Avia Hibna Kule Masker. I would have gave everything to the Masker. So you clearly see all stuff as Lashon Achron, because that case was a din of L'zav, L'chaydish. On that, the Gemara says, they take it out, actually. I think the Marsha takes it out, because it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to say this mahalach, because our question was, why do bichlal we need to say the case of the merchats? So we already cleared the case of the merchats. Why does he need to say the case of Istaria? However, the parenthesis is explaining punkt fakert. Why do I need the case of merchats already have Istaria and the kasha was the other way? So the Gemara says, elamai ma the tema perusha kamefaresh kamash melon, which means over here the perusha kamefaresh over here is different than what we understood, Perushikam Farish and the Resha. The case of the Resha, Perushikam Farish, was a case where a person is saying that maybe I don't want Ein Schiris Mishtal Emes B'Saif. Over here, Ma'ad Tamer Perushim Kamefarish does not mean that. Rather, Ma'ad Tamer Perushim Kamefarish means, or Shmamas Masber, that in his head he was saying to himself, wait a second, what happens if I'm going to be in Chaydash Eber? So maybe a person said, you know what, I'm going to give you $12 a year. And then he said, wait, this year might be a Chaydash Eber. So then he throws in one a month. Kamash Malon, we don't say that. Rather, we say Tafois, Lashon, Achron. So let's just quickly go through a quick sikum of what's going on. We end up coming out with 4 different cases. We have the case of the Reisha, Mida B'Chevel and Chas and Yosef. which is the Mishnah. According to Beinanas, you always go by Lashon Achron. According to Rav and Shmuel, they're going to hold in such a scenario it's a suffix, and you're chalkin. That's the case, the first case. Then we have the second case of the merchatz of a dinner, and then he throws in zav l'chaydish. According to Shimon Gamliel, we saw according to Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Yaisi, they both said yachleiku. However, the fi Rav, it's a moment muta b'safek chalkin, whether we say tafas lashon rishon or tafas lashon achron. According to Shmuel, we're talking about b'ba be'emtza chaydish eskinon. However, according to Benanas, the Seicher is always chayiv in such a case. Why? Because tafas lashon achron. And what is the halacha l'maisa lefi Rav? The halacha is kebenanas. However, lefi Shmuel, the halacha is going to be like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Yaisi. That was the second case. We have a third case of kur belamed saw besala. What in such a case? According to Rav, again tafas lashon achron. According to Rav and Shmuel, we say it's a suffix. Therefore, it's a scenario where it's a tafas, you're a muksuk. Nafkamina is when you say a lashon punkt fakert, when you say sa besela kur lamed. So according to Rav, it's tafas lashon achron. So in such a case, it's going to be lashon achron always. So it's going to be mamash the opposite case of kor belamed sa besela. However, according to Shmuel, it doesn't make a difference which way you say it, kor belamed sa besela, or you say it punkt fakert. It doesn't make a difference. According to Shmuel, it's always a suffix, and whoever's the tafas is muksuk. One last case, what we just said is the stario, which is 96, and man money is 100. In such a case, according to Rav, again tafas lashon achron. According to Shmuel, Rav and Shmuel, the muksuk, because it's a suffix. And then we have one more Nakuda, which Rabbi brings down. We have Shittas Rav Nachman. Shittas Rav Nachman, it's not the sugya over here. The Rav Nachman sugya by the case of the merchatz. He holds that the Bala Bais is always considered the Muksuk. And he explains, because he says a very chap, he says, when was the suffix Nailad? The suffix was Nailad the first day of that Iber Chaydish. So in such a case where you're Muksuk, that's why he's going to be able to get it in such a case. Okay, very good, Shmaik. We're going to pick up the Mishnah on Kavav Amid Aleph. Besimanov uvimei tzarv. A person tells his friend, I'm selling you a base core. However, he says certain landmarks, certain boundaries. He's very clear. I'm selling you from 18 for shay until 22 for shay, and this lamppost and that lamppost. He's very clear what he's selling him, which property. So Zok the Mishnah, Pachis mishtos hegiyoi, ad shtos yinake. Under a shtos, it's a good sale, but on ad shtos yinake. We're going to see what is the halacha of shtos itself. So it's very clear. If, let's say, it's 16.6%, we have 16% is a good sale, 17% he has to give back. Itmar, what is the halacha shtus itself? So it's a machlekes Rav Huna v'Yehuda. Rav Yehuda amar shtus is kepachas k'shtus. Shtus has the halacha of what? Of less than a shtus. And we're going to see loy ad v'ad b'chlal or not, ad v'ad b'chlal or not. Rav Yehuda amar shtus ke'yaisa mishtus. Rav Huna amar shtus kepachas mishtus. Rav Huna is very clear that the halacha is we don't say shtus b'chlal. Hachi kamer pachas mishtus. This is what the Mishnah is saying. V'shtus b'chlal higiyoi. The hainu, what we do is we look at the sada. A person saying, I'm going to sell you a sada, even if the sada is missing a sixth, it's a good sale. And kol shekain, if it's missing even less than a sixth. So we put the sixth as a b'chlal. It's a very interesting chat that we're saying we look at the sada as under the sixth. Okay, Yuda, however, argues Hachikam, Pachas like the Mishnah, Pachas Mishtus Igiyai, and Ad Shtus, Vishtus Bechlal, Yenake, he's putting the Shtus, Vishtus Bechlal. Fraktig Mara on Rav Huna, Meisveder Rav Huna, Besimanov and Bemitzarov, Piche Shtus, we have a bright that clearly says, Piche Shtus, Ahitz Shtus, Harei Kushuma Deyanim. Shuma Deyanim, we're going to learn it extensively very soon. Regarding what is the halacha, what Shuma Deyanim, which means to say is you have a karka that belongs to Yisayim. And the Yisayim either to pay the amana or his sisters, he has to feed them, so he has to sell the sada. Now, when Yisayim do a sale, we don't want people to take advantage. So what happens is, 3 Dayanim, paskin, they evaluate what is the shavis of the karka, and like that, they're able to sell it. So Zok the Gemara, in such a case, Shuma Deyanim, and they messed up on the sale. So the halacha is higiyai. It's a good sale. Now, it says very clearly, Piche shtus or haise shtus. Frak the marva shum deyanim, the shtus ki yaise shtusu. Frak the marva Huna, we clearly see the shuma deyanim is the shtus has halacha ki yaise shtusu. So why you tell me shtus is considered pekapachas? I'm like Rav Huna. Rav Huna asks him right away, but tamech higiyai Katani. It says clearly a good. So why do you ask me a kasha me? It says it is a good sale. Ella, you have to read it. Kashuma dayanim, like kashumi dayanim. We're not going to go through the Bais Medrash. There's another Malach to learn the Gemara extensively. It's Amalei of Yehuda. However, Ella, we're learning with the Ella. Kashuma dayanim, like kashuma dayanim. Now what? Kashuma dayanim l'shtus. However, like kashuma dayanim, what's the chiluk by shtuma dayanim? The b'shtuma dayanim di lahasam beto mekach. Mashen came over here. We don't even get a shtus. We get up to 1/24. Di lahasam beto mekach vi lahacha igiyai. Very good shmak. Ba'amar av Papa. Zavan Ara Mahu Gavri. A person, Rapapa bought a land from a certain person. We're on Kavavim base. Amalei Havya Esrin Garivi Mashchet. It's 20 saw. The guy says it's 20 saw long. The guy measures his house. Let's say he bought a house. He says it's 200 meters. 200 square feet. Ends up being only 150. Elach HaMisra. Asik made the Abai. They come to Abai on Kavavim base. Amalei. Too bad. Savarta v'kabelas, l'maisa, you accepted it, you know what you're getting into. He asked him what do you mean? V'tanan pachas mushtasagiyoi, achtasinaken, over here, it's a quarter. He messed me up 25%. Mar says, Hani mili, this is where Papa tells him, Hani mili, hechadolai kimla begvavo, aval hechadolai kimla begvavo, oh, you knew good what you're getting, savakabel. He says, what do you mean? But I made sure I asked him, how much is it? The guy said 20. Well, no, he meant to say that difa kashin. It's like good, like 20, but you knew good and well exactly how much it was, and it was really only 15, and therefore it's a good sale. Tanya, Rabbi Yaisi Aimer, ha'achen shachalku. Now, interesting, the Rashban throws in, there comes a more, and we don't say it's bato, we're going to go through another sugya, we're not going to talk about bittul. Achen shachalku, the halach is two brothers, they split up, a karka, who are then shleish achin, we're going to see it throughout this daf. Doesn't make a difference, 2 or 3 brothers. You have brothers that split it. Kivan sha'al a girl achaman. Once they made a girl, they split it. Kanukula. My time, Amr Liza Ketchilas Eretz Yisrael. That what? Mat Chilas begirl, just like how they split Eretz Yisrael was begirl. Afkan begirl. Freknimar. Imala Alan. How do you? They did it with the Urim V'Tumim, with Shem Hashem, and the names came out. The Klapi Urim V'Tumim. So Afkan beklapi Urim V'Tumim you would need. Why are you telling me just a girl should work? El Meravashi, no, you know why they're kaineh? Bahu another katsaisi la adadi gamer maknel adadi. We did find such a concept by Matana even that a person when he's willing to accept with that such accepting, he's willing that they're going to listen to each other, they're makneh to each other, they have a no. Very good shmak. Itmar. We're going to continue with the theme of 2 brothers or 3 brothers. Shechalku they split. Ubala and Ach, suddenly a brother out of nowhere shows up. Mimedina Sayam. Rav Amar Batal Machlaikes, and therefore you got to restart. V'Shmuel Amar no Mekansin. So let's say, to make it easier, you got $500,000 and I got $500,000 worth of property. Each one has to give a quarter, a little less like that, because a quarter will end up more. Whatever, they all have to give the share exactly will be that it's all equal. Amalei Rav Nachman Rav, the Amar Batal Machlaikes, according to Rav that says Bitul Machlaikes. Amar Hadadini, tell me the din goes back. If you have 3 shutvin, how do you klasa de kayami? You have 3 people. Also, they trade 2 shouldn't come up in now polig. Hachanami the Batal Machlaikes, you're going to tell me, yeah, you can't do that? Mar says, how do you compare a shutvis where everyone has a recht to leave? Hachi ashta. Hasam nechisi adaita debate lasimikar. We all had in mind, we knew we're 3 shutvim. I knew that I want to leave, so I had you in mind. Hacha nechisi adaita debate lasimikara. Meshenk over here, you weren't thinking, you didn't even know about this 3rd brother. He came out of nowhere when he heard this money. According to Shmuel, I heard that says Mekamsin, remember the Kamdina. It's good. This is the kasha. It says Yachal Achzaboy. So in Zaktar Shmam said Kolshkin over here where he took more. But the kasha is on the Sefer. You see that the Meichel can be Chayser. And the Maran says no. But in the case of Korbish Leishim Sabasella, one comes out and Aleph Hasam Avner Abana Milsa the Nichel the Meicher and Nichel the Kayach. There, it makes sense. It's a 2-way street. We're both happy by Mecca Chumemka. I want the sale to happen. You want it to happen, maybe it'll go up in price as a lakeach. I want it to happen, maybe it'll go down in price. But we're all happy that it immediately gets sold. Masha'enka over here by Chalukas Akarka. However, Chalukas Karka, there we want to say the Beir, the Lashon is, the Rashban says that by Kader, the Beis Shutfi, like Karim Chamim, the Shutfim, the brothers, they just want to split it up, they want to get away with it. Therefore, we say, Kam Dina, Mashe'en Kain, by Korbish Leishim, and the Allah is Yachal Achzabai. That makes sense. They wanted to wait till there's a full Mekach, just in case it goes up in price. Itmar one Kuvzayin Amar Aleph, Achen Shachalku, Uba Ba'choif. Again, Zok dershbam shnei achim ayer mi hu adin legimel. Doesn't make a difference, 2 or 3 brothers. The halacha is ubal b'chayv and not tochal kosha. So what happened was, make it easier with 2 brothers. I have a house in Lakewood. You took the house in Muncie because you lived there. Next thing you know, Baal Chayv comes and takes away the house in Lakewood. So you're left with nothing. So you come running to the person who has the house in Muncie. Rav Amar bat machlekes. Yeah, in a chanami. The person, the guy who had the house in Lakewood has a rech to go to the house in Muncie and divide it. With Shmuel Amar Vita, you lost everything. So Gemara explains. One more shita. Rav Asiyama night to revia b'karka. The person who still has his house left, he has to give a quarter with karka or revia b'mais. It means there is a malach in the Rabbi. I'm going to see that it means hu adin. He has to give half, and he has an option of giving a quarter that with money. We'll see that. Rav Amar. So let's go through all these 3 shitas. Rav Amar bat namachlekes kasava achin shechalku yarshin hey. Since he holds the yarshim, I knew Rav holds the concept yesh breira. We know that you were Yerush the house in Lakewood, I'm Yerush the house in Muncie. So in such a case of Yesh Breir, a regular Yarshim, your luck that the Baal Chayv went and took the house in Lakewood. There's no such thing as Breira. Rather, how could you ever split up a Yerusha 2 brothers? We make a deal. We're like Lekuchas have him. But not just Lekuchas that each one buys it from each other. Rather, usually we know by Karka we say Christ Sefer that what, no matter what, you always have to give it back. Mashenkin over here, in the case of Yerusha, we say you have a din of Lekech Shaloi B'Achrayis. Now the reason is, why? Because in such a case, we're both happy that you're going to have to take it without the risk, and I'm going to do it without the risk. So in such a case, Mela it's Viter. Rav Asi's not sure. Misafkali Yarshin Have. Ilekuchas Have. Hilkuch Netel Revia B'Karka Revia B'Mais. One Malach Neshbam means just a quarter, and you have an option money or Karka. Another Malach Neshbam is that he holds, like Shmuel would hold, that even if you hold Lekuchas, he holds Lekech B'Achrayis. So it doesn't really make a difference. The only enough Gemino would be if you could give a quarter of money, ayin the Rishbam. Amra Papa, Hilchus of Chalani Shmaitza, the halacha is Vitaka Mekamsin. Amema Amar, however, Mema says Batla Machlekes, V'Hilchusa, the halacha is Batla Machlekes. Now we're about to start a sugya, very fascinating sugya, where we mentioned with Shum HaDayanim. We have 3 Dayanim, and they're evaluating Karka D'Yisayim. Now what happens is, if there's no problem in a scenario where 2 of the Dayanim say one price, and the other gives a different price, we have the concept already in the Torah, Achrei Rabbim Hatis, we go Basra the Rabbim of the Dayanim. However, what is the halacha when you have 3 Dayanim in front of us? One says the karka is worth $80, another one says the karka is worth $100, and the other one says $120. So where do we get the common ground? How do we find out the real shavyus of the karka? We're going to see a few different mahalchim. So let's see it inside. Tanu Rabbanon Shleisha, we're at the 2 dots of Zayin and Aleph. Tanu Rabbanon Shleisha Sheyardu L'Shum. Echad Daimim Amana, one says $100, or Shneimim Masayim, that's not a problem. Because we go Basra right. It's not a problem. We go Basar, the 2 Dayanim. However, this is where it gets sticky. One says $100, one says 80, 20 times 4, 20 dinner times 4. One says 80, now again you have 120, 180. So who do you go? The halacha is Nidim B'mana, which makes the most sense. You go smack in the middle, make up sure if it's 80, 100, 120, say the property's worth 100. However, we're going to evaluate the karka and say from 80, 100, 120, you're going to go 90. The Gemara is going to go through this extensively. That means to say is, you have 3 people in front of us. You're saying 80, you're saying 100, you're saying 120. What's 120 minus 80? What's the difference between you? 40. What's 40 divided into 3? 13 and a third. So what do we say? We say we take the 80 from the bottom, we add the third, which is 13 and a third. It comes at the karka, interesting, is only worth 93 and a third. This is this mahalach. So Zok the Gemara. Mandama need them on it. Very easy understanding. Tanakama is Milsum and Siyasa. You have 3 different names. Again, we have 80, 100, 120. Okay, so you say the property is worth 100. However, Belazar says 90. What's the cheshbon? Belazar, it's either going to need the petition, Kasava, one comes in the base, Ha'ara, Tishin Shabbat. The karka is really worth 90. We have 3 different numbers. The high dekamar esrim. You know that the guy said 80. The katai asar lachar. He messed up. He really meant to say he was off with his numbers by 10. The high dekamar mana katai asar lachamei. The high knew we have 80, 100, 120. The 120 guy, we're going to throw him out of the window. And the Gemara's going to ask why. We say he's out to lunch. Way too a higher price. We have an 80, 100. We're going to say you were both off by 10, one higher, one lower. So for the Gemara, why are you throwing the guy who says 120? Throw the guy who says 80 outside. So comes you have 100 and 120. Say it's 110. Adarabba, say hi Arameh Basar Shava. Say it's really 110. The person who says 100, which is the middle guy, he was off with his numbers by 10. The guy says 120, he was up by his numbers. So why? We have an option. Either we throw the 120 guy out of the window, or we throw the 80. Why go in one direction? Marantz is very geschmack. The Hainu, there's no argument that everyone holds it's at least worth 80. You want to go higher. So we're going to go with the measurement lower because that everyone agrees it's worth at least that shavyos. Therefore, we're going to go Basra that cheshbon. What do the Chaim say? We say 93 and a third. Isim Shuma b'nei Mishal Shalom. Why? Kasavri, Hayara, Tishim, Etalsa, Betilsa Shavi. Betzim, it's really worth 93 and a third. Hi, Dikama Asim, you that said 80, Katai Tlaisa, Betilsa Lachayre. You went off by your numbers 13 and a third. V'ai Dikama Mane, Katai Tlaisa, Betilsa Kamei. You were real in your head. You were thinking 106 and 2/3. Because 93 and a third plus another 13 and a third is 106 2/3. So, why did you say 100 and 106 and 2/3? You know why? Ubedinu. That's what it said at the Lema Tfei. The high delakam, you only said 100 and not 106 and 2/3. Savar mistar they come in fina kula high. Chavre, look at my friend. Again, they explained that even if he said it first, they already handled beforehand. All the dayanim talk to each other and they say what their numbers are even before they come out and get their psak. So I already in my head was saying, what? You're saying 80? I'm going to say 106 2/3. Let me go down a little. So that's why I went to 100. Again, Freknamar, very similar question. Adarabba, hi Ara, say Me'ev Tleisar v'Tlosa Shavia. Say Be'etzem, it's worth 113 and a third. Hi, the common money when he's saying 100 Katai Tleisa v'Tlosa Lachayre, he went up by 13 and a third. Hi, the common Shleishim, Be'etzem, he would have said more Tait Tleisa v'Tlosa Lachamei. He really would have said 130. 126. So within the comment fate, some instead they come at kulaya chavre. I should go up. My friends say so much. 100 and then will come at 126, etc. I'll say less. Not frektimara. Very similar question. Why are we saying 93 and a third? Say it's 113 and a third. Very similar question we had earlier of 110 to 90. My answer is nakoit miyas trei kamay biyadcha the mitaris maya lemafki. Again, they're all agreeing to the minimum. So mainly we go down with the lesser number. Now, the Gemara has a problem with, Taisus has a bomb kasha, the case is saying that it's worth 113 and a third. For the Gemara, if you would have one guy who says 100, another guy who says 120, what would you have said? You would have said 110. So how in the world, Frek Taisus, should you go just because one guy says 80 to go to a measurement of 113 and a third? You're going higher because the guy's saying lower. Taisus bleib shver. There are achronim that give an answer, not for now. Okay, very geschmack. Abin Ravuna, the halacha is ka'acherim. You go 93 and a third. Amar Bashi, time of the Chaim lo yadin. We don't understand them. Hilchos avdin kavasaychu. You're going to do with them. Tanu dayana gayla isin shuma b'nei mashal shem. Amar Ravuna again. Hilchos avdin gayla. Amar Bashi, time of the dayana gayla lo yadinon. Hilchos we're going to do like them. Avdinon kavasayu rather zokter shpam. What do we do? Ela hilchos avdinon ketan kama to Amar tidain b'moneh. Rather we're going to say the middle ground, which makes the most sense. Okay, let's finish the parak. Very geschmack. A person tells his friend, Chetzi, Sada, I need Meichelach. I'm selling you a half a field. The halacha is Mishamshin B'neim. We'll see what Mishamshin B'neim means. Either means we split it or it divides them. We'll see that. V'naito Chetzi Sedei, and he gets a half a field. Chetzi B'darm, ani Meichelach. I'm selling you a half a field in the south. Mishamnin B'neim. Again, we'll see what that means. V'naito Chetzi B'darm. However, one crucial thing is, when a person sells a chelik of a sada, he has to give him a fence, not part of the rishus. We'll makabel all of what? Makam agadar. He has to give him a gadar and charetz. We're going to see how big that is. 6 tvachim. He has to give him like a little trench. Ben charetz. The kamhu charetz shisha tvachim. Ben charetz shleish. You're going to have to end up giving 3 little. You have to give a little pit. That's 3. And then another tefach. And then another 6. And the Gemara is going to explain why we're going to give that much. Why we need to give both. Zaktu Mara Amar Chia Barabba Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Lekeach nato kachish b'chay. So it comes Rabbi Yechanan says that the lekeach comes and gets the weaker one. Wupshat, Amalei Abchia Barabla Yechanan Va'anan Mishamshin Ben Shamshin Ben Tanan. We clearly said that what? That they divided up. So how in the world are you telling me that he gets the weaker one? Amalei throws him back. Adachal to come and Isa while you're eating your dates by Bavel. Tagamidim is safe. We ready? He's ripping him up a little. He's saying, the Lashon Ishbam is Sha'isam Adan Atzcha Leisa Isa Betayr Mekantre Haya. You're saying that not he doesn't know how to learn to a certain degree. We ready tight shit. Tagaminu Maseifa, the Ketani Seifa says, Chatzia bedarim ani meichelach. I'm selling you the half in the darim, Mishamshim b'neim, and not the Chatzia bedarim. Ma'amai frekdamar, Mishamshim b'neim, or Chatzia bedarim. How can you tell me you're valued, you get both? Mishamshim b'neim, we think it means you get both. Each one gets Chatzia bedarim. He's clearly saying he gets half in the south. Amalei l'dmi, achanam l'dmi means of other money. The Hainu, the Chreinim explain that the argument between Rabbi Yochanan and between Reb Chia is as follows. Rabbi Yochanan and Reb Chia is as follows. The shaila is, what is Mishamshem b'neim? Either when a person says you get something, either it could separate the two when you divide something. The Hainu makes a division between you two because you're getting more than me, so it splits me up. It makes a separation from us. Or Mishamshem b'neim, rather we divide it. So that's the shaila. How do you read Mishamshem b'neim? Is it that we're dividing it, or it's separating us? That's the machlekes. Okay. Mekabel olav makim gadol. He has to accept the fence. Tana charetz mibachutz. Where is the ditch? It's on the outside. Uben charetz is mifnim. It's interior, but it's also outside. Which means to say is there's a fence. Then you do a ben charetz, and then you do a charetz 6 tvachim. Why? We don't want an animal to jump into the yard. Why do you need to have both? Why do you need to have 6 tvachim and 3 tvachim? Just make a 6 tvachim wide in front of the fence. No animal can jump. The Moran says, I did the ravach, kaima begavei bekutz. If it's so enough big, the animal could go in and jump over. So for tomorrow, so make a small one, so it's narrow enough that the animal can't go in. Moran says, I did the cotton, kayama sfasei bekutz. It could go on the edge and jump. The kama ben charetz, ben charetz tafach. So mainly we need to have both. You have the narrow one, and you have the wider one. Like that, it makes sense that the animal will never be able to get in. Hadron alach, base core, hadron alach. Okay, we're going to start a fascinating new parak. It's the lengthiest, one of the lengthiest prakim. This in Cheskas Habatim, regarding the halachas of Nachla. We all know the sugyas of Yerusha. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to go through that there are multiple different types of kroivim. Yesh, Neichelin, Manchilim. There are certain types of Yarshim that they both receive Yerusha and they give it back. It's a two-way street. V'yesh Neichelin, there are people that get, we're going to see, but they don't reciprocate. They don't give it back to the person they're getting from. V'loi Manchilim, we're going to see Manchilim that just give V'loi Neichelin, they don't get the Yerusha. Or Loi Neichelin, V'loi Manchilim, we're going to see who's that, even though you're related. There's no Yerusha involved. The Elu, Neichelin, Manchilim. Let's jump right into it. Now, Rishbam does right. We could have easily just said, Yesh Neichelin Zeh Zeh. The Lashon Manchilim is because of the Sefer Neichelin V'Neichelin Manchilim. So Tananami Reisha, Neichelin, Manchilim. So let's jump into it. The Elu, Neichelin, Manchilim. These are the people that do both. Ha'avas abanim, a father to a son, va'abanim asa'av, va'achim and av, brothers from the father. We're going to see this in the Gemara. Mishpachas av, krui mishpacha. Therefore, brothers from the father and sons and fathers to sons are Neichelin, Manchilim. Now, ha'ish esimai. Neichlin, ha'ish esimai, a person to his mother, the ishis ishtai, or a person to his wife, uvnei achayis, or achayis, the Rishbam says, Neichlin, v'loi manchilin. There, we're going to see that a person's Yarish his wife is not Yarish him. Or a mother's not Yarish. Or a son, rather he's Yarish's mother. Neichlin, v'loi manchilin. Ha'isha's benel, va'isha's baila, a woman to her son, va'isha's baila, va'achim. The word's going to ask the being very repetitive. Manchilin, v'loi neichlin. However, va'achim and aim, brothers from the mother, loi neichlin, v'loi manchilin b'chlal. Zok the Gemara right away. If you look at the first case, it says the first case in the Mishnah is a father to a son. Frek the Gemara, ma'ishna the ketani avis abanim bereisha. Two issues with this. Listening b'chlal, habanim sa'ab bereisha. We all know teva is that a son is yarish a father. A father is not yarish a son. First of all, that's chaluli piperunus or leimas chalinina. What happened, in order for this to happen, it had to be that first his son died. Not only was Rahman al-Itzlan a tsar that his son died before he died, he also died childless. How else would he be Irish? So that's already a massive piranha. So why are we starting with that? One kuf chesem base. V'oid kedechsev, it says in the pasuk, ish kiyamus vein ein loy. It clearly says the lashon of Torah is that if a person doesn't have a person who dies and he doesn't have a son, ha yesh leben, he is Yereshit. So what is going on over here? L'chayra, we should have started off the lashon of the son first. And that our answer is Vitana, our Mishnah held. Haidi daslim drasha chavivile. Since we're at a drasha, we started. Yitzchak, do you mind bringing me a chumash? Since we started with the drasha, since it learns from a drasha, us chavivile. Umay drasha. What is this drasha? The Tanya. It says in the pasuk she'eroi. What is she'eroi? Ze ha'av melamed sha'av. Koidem la'achin, it's coming to tell us that Av is before the brothers. The Hainu, if you look through the psukim, it says in the pasuk as follows: the El b'nei Yisrael tedaber. You tell the people as follows: El b'nei Yisrael tedaber lemar ish kiyamus. A person dies. Uvein ein line, he doesn't have a son. Ve'vartem es nachalasai. What do? We're going to see this in Mark of Tesam and Aleph. You do a lashon havara. Ve'hevartem. You don't just give. Ve'vartem es nachalasai lebitoi. And then the later on Psukim, Pasuk Yud Aleph says, V'im ein achim la'aviv. If he doesn't have brothers to the father, who do you give it to? Le she'eroi. You give it to the she'eroi hakarov eloi. And then it says in the Pasuk, Me mishpachtoi v'yarash oisa. So since we're learning the drush over here is she'eroi, who is the she'eroi? If you're looking through the Psukim, and Bechlal doesn't mention the father. The father is Bechlal not mentioned in the Pasuk, so we say, She'eroi is the father. Za'av melamet tetala sha'av is koidem la'achin. So yachu yeh koidem la'ben. You would even think, maybe, wait a second, the father is even before the ben. Tama laimar hakar, to tell us whoever's the closest, which is karov koidem, which would come out being that avada that the son is first. So again, this is how you would read the psukim. Ish kiyamus. You read the first psukim. Ish kiyamus is nesatem es nachlas l'sheiroi, which means to the father. Uvein le'vevadim es nachlas l'bitoi. Only then. And that we're saying no. Hakarov kaidem, to tell us that he comes first. Oma frek demara. Uma reisa le'rabbi sisaben. Why would you put b'chlal the son? Ulaitz yisaachi, telling us that the brother of the mace is not getting marban yisaben shekain. We're going to see, the reason why we're saying a karv kaidim is the ben is first, is because the ben has two things that help him. One is yibum. We all know that if a person also basam ayin, but if a person doesn't have, just give me any chumash, please. If you have any chumash, if a person, any chumash is fine. Bamidbar. Chamisha chumash Torah. If a person, okay, let's just quickly go through the psukim very quickly. It says in the pasuk as follows: Vel b'nei Yisrael tedaber leimar ish kiyamas, a person that dies of vein ain't doesn't have a son. Ve'vartem es nachalasoi levitoi. Ve'ein leibas, if he doesn't have a daughter. Unesatem es nachlasoi la'achav, you give it to his brother. Ve'ein la'achim, he doesn't have brothers. Unesatem es nachlasoi la'achei aviv. So if you look in the psukim, Bechlal doesn't mention the father. Ve'ein la'achim la'achiv. Then it says unesatem es nachlasoi. So we're going with this mahalch. She'eroi is the father. We're going to see other mahalchim. They're going to learn it out from a kavachaymer, not even she'eroi, hakarav elov. And then it says in the pasuk, very crucial, mimishpachtoi v'yarash oisa. So from there we're bringing the psukim that the father is all the way at the last. But we're trying to say over here that she'eroi is the father. And now the son has two things very crucial that the son has. The son has yibum, and he has something called yud. We're going to see that he has yud. And, he doesn't have Yibum. The brother has Yibum. The son has Stei Achuza. We're going to learn that whenever there's a Stei Achuza, that the son is also able to get it with, just like the halachas of his father, and who did Yid, he could do it. So, Frek Gemara, you're telling us that what? That the son has Yid. Maris l'Rabbi ben Leitzisach. I have Mar ben Isa ben. I have the son. Shekein kam tachas aviv liyudov l'Stei Achuza. Adarabba Mar ben Isach. Shekein kam tachas aviv liyibum. You also have the brother. The brother helps a yibum. Where says that funny. Kulam yesh yibum ela b'makom shein ben. The only reason why bechlal you would do yibum is because there's no son. Ha b'makom sheish ben ain't yibum. So the Gemara has an issue with this. The frek the Gemara time medik ay percha. It's only because you have an issue that yibum comes from the brother, and it's coming really from the sun. That's what we're trying to say. The Yibum is coming from the sun. Time of the Iko Hai Pircha. Halav Hachi Havamini Otami Achad. Frek the Mar typically one Kuftesam and Aleph. The Hachatarti. Either way, Bechlal. The son has Steachuza and he has Yud. And the brother only has Yibum. It's 2 against 1. So why do you need a Bechlal knock out Yibum? Sadech Gufa. If you look through the Gemara in Erchin, Bechlal declares, how do you know who does the Steachuza? Maybe the brother should do it because he does Yibam. And that the Gemara says, how do we know that the son gets the Steachuza and not the brother? Is because of the Taina of Klum Yesh Yibam Elam Malkum Shein Ben. Ha Yesh Ben and Yibam. So in Mela, we needed to come onto this svara to naka b'chlal ste'achuzah. So it's not that there's 2 against 1 without this svara. The only reason why a son b'chlal has ste'achuzah is because of this taina of klum yesh yibam. Why the Gemara needed to come out with 2 of these tainas. Frak the Mara, Azak the Mara as follows. Ve'emai share zav, maybe share zav. Melamet's coming to tell us sha'av that the father is kaidim labas. We know, we went through the psukim, it says after the son dies, what happens is, if there's no son, after the person dies, there's no son, it goes to a daughter. Maybe Scheiner is coming to tell us that he's coming before the father. And this is how you read the psukim. Ishki yamus, he doesn't have a son. You give it to the father. If he doesn't have a share, you give it to the brothers. And if he doesn't have achim, then you give it to the daughter. And if he doesn't have daughters, then you give it to the father's brothers. And if he doesn't have father's brothers, then you give it over eventually to the Yerush. And we all know, unless you're a ger, there's no such a thing. The Gemara in Yishnach is actually going to talk about it. There is no such thing as a yid dying without a Yerush. All the way up to Har Sinai, unless you're a ger. So Zok the Gemara, so Yachol Yakim Leben. I would have even a hamina to tell us that what? Maybe he's even before a son, once we're working with the drasha. Tamalei Ma'akarev, like we just learned. That the son clearly has Yiyut and Steachuzah. The Av doesn't have anything under the sun for the son. So Frek the Mara, Zok the Mara, Kivin the Liban, Yibom, Ben Abasket Dadaninu. Just like by Yibom, the daughter also helps that we don't do Yibom. The Rashbam says from the Pasuk Ayin Olaf to tell us Ayin for Bas. The Taisus doesn't like Ayin, he says that we need for Mamzer. So he has other drasha why the Bas helps. So to Leininachla Nami Ben Abasket Dadaninu, they're equal. However, the Ben is coming clearly from the Pasuk, clearly comes first. Maybe it's coming to tell us that the father is coming before the brothers. You would have a havamina to tell us even before the brothers itself. Like that, we know that they do yibum, right? The brothers do yibum, the father doesn't. And that the Gemara says, the brothers of the father don't need a psukim. Why? Because Acheav, Mikoich Man Kasu. Where would a brother of the father of the Meis be urged? From the brother. Mikoich Av Koi. So Av Koi, the father's alive. Av Koi, Yasi Acheav. That can be. So Frek the more different kasha. Kroi Lav Hachi Ksivi. If you look through the psukim that we went through, it says, Ve'im Ein Achim Lachiv. Then it says in the pasuk at Al, Ve'im Ein Achim Lachiv, Unasatim Esnachlasai L'Sheiroi. Only afterwards. My answer is Kroi Shalai Kesed and Ksivi. Rather, the psukim are not Keseder. Memelo, when they're not Keseder, that's why Avada will say that the fathers come before. Again, and the Hamin would be the Lashon Rashbam is maybe it's Xeris Akosov. You're right, Misvara. I agree to that taina that the only reason why your Yair should screw the brother, that's the Morris taina, but maybe it's Xeris Akosov. And now we're saying that the psukim are not Keseder. This is one mahalach. The Sheiroi Za'av is learning this as a drasha. I did drasha chavivili. However, we're going to see another mahalach, a taina, v'hai taina ma'aseh lahacha. We're going to have another taina that learns. Be'etzim, the father's a kavachaymer. It's really a kavachaymer that he learns it out. It's a davar pasha that he should get it. That he's Yerush. The Tanya. Ezu darsh Rabbi Shmuel b'Rabbi Yosi. It says ish kiyamas. If a person dies uvein ein loin, he doesn't have a son. B'makim bas atamaver nachlo menav. In a place where there's a daughter, that's when you're maver nachlav. V'yata maver nachlo menav b'makim achin. However, in a case where there is brothers, you're not maver. Frak Mara, v'ema b'makim bas atamaver nachlo menachin. In such a case, v'yata maver nachlo menav afilu b'makim bas. The Hainu don't even Bechlal say the pasuk. The Hainu, the father's not really negating the psukim. And then the Gemara says, if that's true, what's shot Havara. In Kain lo nifta, we're on Kuftesim base, top of the helmet. In Kain lo nichta rachmanim v'havartem. Why Bechlal do you need to say Havara? Ella might to tell us that it goes over somebody. Who does it go over? It goes over the father instead of going over it jumps over the father. That's who you think would get it. And it goes to the daughter. That's what it means. V'havartem es nachlasai libita. Go jump over the father. Fraktamara. Okay, so v'laman denafkalim v'havartem. You tell me you're learning from Havara. What's he going to do with Sheiroi? We're learning a high Sheiroi Za'av. High Sheiroi ma'yavidle. What's he going to do with the drasha Sheiroi? Mivayle the Chetanya Sheiroi zu ishtoi. Sheir is your wife to tell us that what? Melamed Shabal, a husband, Yairish es ishtoi. V'laman denafkale misheiroi. If you learn Sheir high v'avartim, what are you going to do with Lashon Havara? Ma'yavidle. Mivayle Chetanya. Rabbi Ayman, we have a Bais that says, Bekulon, Nema behen Nesina, Vekan, son over here, by this Lashon of Abbas, Nema behen Havara. She'en l'cho shemaver, Nachlo, Mishevet, L'shevet, El Abbas, Hayel ubno, Bayel Yarshin. The only time, if a person's Yarish, it's all Mena'av, so if an Av is Shevet Ruvain, it comes out the Yerusha sticks by Ruvain. When is there a scenario where it jumps into a different Shevet is by a daughter? Why? Because a daughter is Yarish, and a Baal is Yerush Ishtai. And it goes to her sons, which the sons, Yerush, a Shevet, goes after the father. So the Avara is that the daughter is going from a different Shevet. That's the Avara, that you change the Yerusha from Shevet to Shevet. El Abbas, Hoylu b'no b'ayla, Yarshinosa, it's going to jump in the Shevet. Frak the Gemara, Umay the Sheir, where you come from? The Sheir Zad, the Chsiv, it says regarding people, regarding Znos to a sister, says, regarding a sister from the Chsiv, Sharavichu, says in the Pasuk regarding a Arvas Achais Avicha, Achas system father loisagala kasharavicha frekmar aim asher zoaim. I have the same pasuk regarding the mother, regarding a sister from the mother. So why are you picking share for the father more for the mother? Amar Rava Amakra says mimish pachtoi from the end of the pasuk. It says v'men achin la'aviv unesatim es nachlas asheira karvel mimish pachtoi v'yarish ha'isa. Since it says mishpacha, that what? Mimish pachtoi v'yarish ha'isa mishpachas av krui mishpacha. Mishpachas aim ain't a kru mishpacha dechsev, like it says in the pasuk lemishpachaisa lebeis avois. Frak Mara. Is this really true that mother's mishpacha is not considered mishpacha? Mishpachas aim ain't a kru mishpacha. V'ksev, we find this regarding the pasuk. It says in Shaiftim, Vayihi nar mi beis lechem Yehuda. It says there was this nar. It's talking about the idol of Micha. It talks about, it says this nar mishpachas Yehuda. It says Vayihi nar beis lechem Yehuda. It says Yehuda mishpachas Yehuda v'u Levi. Vu Garsham. At kind of pasuk. So, Frek Gemara Gufa Kasha. Amarta says Vu Levi. Amam Levi Asi. Elamais from Shevet Levi. Then it says Mishpachas Yehuda. Amam Yehuda Asi. So you clearly see Elalav Davu Min Levi. It's Shevet Levi. However, his mother's from Yehuda. B'imim Yehuda. V'kama Mishpachas Yehuda clearly says Mishpachas Im Kuru Mishpacha. Amar Rabbi Rechana. No. Loi. Gavad Shmei Levi. That was his name. Vu Levi. That was his name. This kohen that went and took this. This priest that went and took this Avodah Zarah was his name was Levi. If so, I have a problem. Micha says, Ati Adati, we were so happy. He says, Ki Yetev Hashem li, Ki Hayali Levi Lekayin. This Levi was a Kayin. It sounds like clearly that why is he so happy? Because he was a Levi. He came from Shevet Levi. That's why he's so proud that he went and took away the psul. Mara says, no, this Ramale Gavri was happy. I don't know why he was so happy. The Shmei Levi, since his name was Levi, he was happy. He wasn't a real Levi. He's talking from Shevet Yehuda. You tell me his Levi is Levi. We clearly know his name was Yonasan, because the pasuk later says, "Shenamar v'Yonasan ben Gershon ben Menashehu uvanav hayu kan l'shevet Adani." So again, we're back to the square one that we clearly see that we call it Mishpachas Yehuda. So you do see Mishpachas Im Kru Mishpacha. You telling me Haizer ben Gershom ben Menashe? It's not really true. V'aloi ben Maishu, we all know the Chsiv name Maishu was who? Gershom, Beliezer. Ela mitoich she'asa ma'aseh Menashe, that he was over the Zara. Talei kosev Menashe. Hachinami mitoich she'asa ma'aseh Menashe da'asa Yehuda. Well, Talei kosev Yehuda, but Avada, his mother, Mishpachas Im, is not from Yehuda. Rather, we're Talei Yehuda from Menashe. Amar Rabbi Yechina, Mishum Yechai Mikan. Shetoilin is al kilkula b'makoko by Menashe. We clearly see that. Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina Hamahachi has another pasuk. It says, "V'gam hu toiv." Toyer mighty was beautiful. V'aisi yalda acher v'shalom. And it talks about the second kid. It sounds like they have the same mother. V'aloi Adoniah was ben Chagas. We're talking about Adoniah. He was from the son of Chagas. V'avshalom ben Ma'acha. And if you look at the pasuk, it says Gamhu, which is a Adoniya Toyamai, v'Yaisi Yalda Achre Avashalom. Sounds like they have the same mother, but we know clearly Adoniya was ben Chagas, and Avashalom is ben Ma'acha. L'mitayich she'asam ma'aseh Avashalom. That what? The Mar ben Ma'acha is Talei Akasab Avashalom. So to v'yer Chanam mitayich she'asam ma'aseh Menashe Talei Akasab Menashe. Of what? Mishevet Yehuda v'Avada. He himself was not from Shevet Yehuda. Very Geshmakim. Yes Hashem. Next week we're going to pick up Amr Rabbi Lezer La'olam Yidbak Adam B'Tayf.